Yes, it is officially college football playoff week. We are just 4 days away from Penn State and SMU kicking things off in the college football playoff. Well, kicking things off from them. There will be a game Friday night, of course, but a really, really, really exciting week of football ahead of us, both professionally and college football. Welcome into the All Nittany Lion Podcast here on PHLY. Thanks so much for hanging out with us once again. As always, it is a pleasure to be with my guys, Adam Telefero and Jason Cabinda. And guys, before we even touch on the game, before the game even kicks off, a lot to talk about. Penn State did not leave us devoid of conversation pieces this week on the pod. But as always, great to be with you guys each and every Tuesday here for our conversation for this hour.
It's good to be back again, man. Always good to be with you guys.
College football playoffs, man. It's finally here. Let's get it.
I feel like we've been talking about it forever. The hypotheticals, the possibilities, the what ifs, the who could Penn State play, who's getting in, who's not getting in. And obviously we know the 12 teams now. We'll preview all of the games. We'll talk about Penn State and SMU in some pretty great detail. But first, let's start with some of the news that happened over the last 4 or 5 days or so. Over the weekend, Beau Pribula puts out a post and says that he will be transferring from the program. I guess effective immediately. And then a day later, you find out that Drew Allar has announced that he is returning for 2025. Let's start with Drew Allar, guys, and then we'll talk about Pribula's role and what this could mean for him and his future. He announced that he's returning for the 2025 season. This year, I think, guys, has been his best statistical year. He's completing almost 70% of his passes. He's thrown for almost 3,000 yards, a 3-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio. He's only thrown 7 interceptions this entire year, and 2 of them didn't come until the Big Ten championship last week. I wanted to get your guys' overarching thoughts on this because I guess he must have gotten some kind of information that he may not have been drafted as high as he would have liked, his group, his family, his team would have liked. I'm not going to lie to you. I was a little surprised when I heard this news break. Excited as a Penn State fan that he'll be back for for next season. And I know he's not going to talk about next season until this game and until the season ends. But I was a little bit surprised when I heard that Drew Allar was coming back for the 2025 season. Wanted to get your guys' thoughts on his return to Penn State next year.
I'm actually not that surprised, to be real with you. I do think he could have gone. I think we all sit here and believe and know that he has the ability to play at the next level. I just definitely feel like he could benefit from one more year, another year in Andy's system. I just feel like there's too many positives and not enough negatives the more and more that I look at it. And I feel like NIL and things of that nature is a good thing. And this is one of the reasons why, because guys can go and finish their degrees. They're getting paid. There's no crazy financial. I mean, he's a guy who has a potential to be a first rounder. That's a lot of financial incentive, obviously, but he's making a lot of money right now. It's something that's going to come no matter what. So finishing his degree, having another year with Andy in this offense, hopefully they go crazy in the transfer portal this year and get a couple of receivers to really bolster that room. And who knows, you can have another great year to solidify him as a number 1 or number 2 quarterback. Because I think right now, the best argument you can make for him right now in terms of quarterbacks is maybe 4, maybe 3. If you're really, a diehard Drew Allar fan, you could argue 3 right now. Whereas next year, he's a possibility to be 1 or 2. So that's my take.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree with everything you just said, Jason. And I just, in a moment of truth here, as we ended last year and we were coming into this year, a lot of people were high on Drew. I was equally high, but I was a Beau guy as well. I was like, man, I wanted, I know they battled it out, but Beau is just someone I think it's because he wears that number 9 and he brings back good memories of that other number 9. But he got put in a tough spot. I can't blame him one bit. Who wants to sit 3-4 years behind a great quarterback like Drew? But I think with Drew, man, I think a big thing was with our offensive coordinator coming back. Coach K, him making that announcement to come back. I don't know. Who knows if Coach K decides to take the West Virginia job if Drew comes back. But it's just great that I feel like all the chips have fallen into place, and hey, we're lucky to have him. And I think to Jason's point, he just made such a huge jump this year. Whether it's making good reads or when the pocket collapsed, picking up yards with his feet. And I just, to continue to build on that going into next year, I think he is going to be one of the top guys going into next year. And as Jason mentioned, with getting a wide receiver in, I just saw we got the dude from USC in the transfer portal. So
yeah,
just keep it rolling. I'm trying to do my James Franklin, not look too far ahead because we still got stuff to play for this year. But it's a great way going into next year where I think it's going to be set up nicely. And I even saw the schedule came out. That's another thing that looking at the schedule for next year already, it looks like it's lined up nice again. So a lot of excitement.
Yeah, it's Jason. It's a good point you bring up with the draft prospects and the two guys at the top, and whether you're a Shedeur first and a Cam Ward second, or a Cam Ward first and a Shedeur Sanders second. Those are the two guys, right? Like they might be picks 1 and 2 depending on how things fall out. A lot of teams towards the bottom of the NFL that are really in desperate play of quarterbacks. I'm not going to harp or pick on any one team in particular, but like you saw the Raiders last night in Monday Night Football. That's a team that desperately needs a quarterback. There's a bunch of teams out there that need a quarterback. And I think there's a very real chance that Shedeur and Cam Ward go 1 and 2 in whatever capacity they end up going in. So it makes it does. I guess I didn't even think about it from that perspective. To me, I always look, I guess maybe I need to shed the go make your money thing, right? I always said that. I'm a huge fan of go make your money. The degree will be there. Like the degree's waiting for you when you come back. Because, you could re-enter school, you could finish your degree. But, if God forbid you get hurt or, you have your play dips significantly, right? And then all of a sudden you go from potential first to a 4th round pick and you lose out on all that kind of money. You're right, though. It's not necessarily the same thing anymore with NIL deals and the ability to get yours as they should. And I think players should be able to get their compensation for their work and their time. Coaches and schools have been benefiting off players for years. Players should be allowed to get some compensation of their own as well. So I guess maybe it does put a little bit less onus, a little bit less pressure on entering the draft to financially stabilize yourself or to set yourself up, your kids up and your kids' kids up. So that makes a lot of sense.
Especially at the quarterback's position.
Sure.
Those guys are getting paid probably more than anybody on the team in terms of NIL.
So let me ask you guys this. We're talking about Drew Allar, and then we'll kind of turn the conversation to Beau Pribula a little bit. To me, one of the things that I think we've talked about a ton, and one of the things that I've really appreciated about Drew's play this year is his maturity and his pocket awareness have both increased, I think, exponentially, like 4, 5, 6-fold. He's smart in the pocket. He's decisive. He knows when to climb. He knows when to extend. He's protective of the football. My guess would be that can only even improve with another season, as Adam, you brought up, under Coach Kotelnicki. He'll be the guy, right? I don't think they'll do as many sub packages with Ethan Grunkmeyer as they did with Beau Pribula. But I would be interested to see what kind of step he takes next year in his return.
Yeah, it was really interesting, listening to Coach Franklin's press conference yesterday, talking about some of the real-time feedback that they'll get from draft analysts, they'll get from GMs, hearing what Drew needs to work on for next year. And I'm sure he's going to take those things to heart over the offseason and come back and be that much better for it. So I think it's such a unique but good position to be in from Drew's perspective, saying, hey, I could have went this year, but you know what? I'm going to get this feedback from the real decision makers, work on it, come back, be a better player for my team and lead them again, hopefully, back to a playoff and have the same success that he had last year, but build upon everything that he's done this year. So I think it's just at the end of the day, it's really a win-win for everyone, for Drew and for Penn State and for us as fans. So I'm just could be more excited about, that news with him coming back.
Yeah, 100% agree. And I thought you brought up a great point earlier, Adam, when you said that, at the beginning of the year, we were still talking so much about should we go Drew or should we go Beau? That was a question, low key at the beginning of the season. So, Drew really solidified himself this year, and it became very clear that our offense functioned best with him in there. And we knew we needed him to take that jump. And you talked about it too, Tyler. I mean, the jumps he's taking, in pocket awareness, extending plays, when to, when not to, when to throw the ball away. I mean, there's leaps and bounds from where he was last year. And I truly feel like he isn't fully unlocked yet as a quarterback. And I think next year can be that stable year of, man, I'm truly just out here playing. I'm not thinking at all. Yeah. I'm freaking comfortable. I'm making my adjustments at the line. I know exactly, you know what I mean? And I had this chemistry. There's just something about time and reps. I think next year we'll see that out of him. So I'm happy he's coming back, and a great addition, or non-subtraction, maybe I should say, for Penn State in our squad.
So, as you guys brought up, the transfer portal and the wide receivers are going to be a conversation piece for a while. Kyron Hudson has committed to Penn State. He's the number 33 receiver in the transfer portal. He comes from USC. Reports out there, nothing solidified by any means, but Malachi Fields has entered the transfer portal from Virginia. From what I've read and what I've heard about him and his kind of transfer portal pursuit, Penn State may be involved in it with him as well. Nothing official, of course, but you could see a pretty new-looking wide receiver room in 2025 for Penn State. But before we get to that, let's talk about the quarterback that is transferring. That is Beau Pribula, and I know you guys were both high on Beau. Does a lot of good things. That obviously wasn't getting the consistent reps that he would like at the quarterback position, because Drew Allar started all 13 games this season so far. The one time we did get to see Beau Pribula in extended play, I thought he was really, really good against Wisconsin in the second half when they needed him, when Drew Allar suffered the ankle injury. When you hear that Allar's returning, it's not a surprise to find that Beau Pribula is going to transfer. I would imagine, though, guys, the reason that he did this now, so the window is open until December 28th, the transfer portal, and then it doesn't open back up until the middle of April. Now, teams within the college football playoff get an extended window for the transfer portal, access to the transfer portal. But as a lot of people have pointed out, Beau Pribula would like to be a starter somewhere next year. I think he has the skill set to be a starter in Division I college football somewhere across the 134 FBS teams. And so it kind of puts him in an unfortunate situation where he's not trying to, this is not an abandonment of Penn State, right? This is not like some uncommitment from the team. I'm sure in a perfect world, Beau Pribula would love to be on the sideline and in the game when Penn State plays SMU next week and still be able to have access to the transfer portal, which he will have access to. But if teams start scooping up quarterbacks, opportunities dwindle, right? Maybe you have a list of 5 or 6 teams you'd love to play for. You got to go on recruiting visits. You got to almost like you're 18 again, 17, 18 again, and go see schools, see if it's a match for you, both on the football field and academically, if it's a match for your personality, traits. So I feel like Beau Pribula is almost in an unfortunate spot where he has to make a decision that's best for him. And then you get the mouth breather armchair quarterback fans that are like, he's leaving the team. Can you guys just expound on this a little bit? College football.
Beau Pribula to me is he's got to be. He's like the ultimate Penn State kid. That's a dude who has dreamt about Penn State all his life. So many Penn State football players and Penn State people, really, honestly, that go to our school. He's so die-hard Penn State that it really saddens me that this kid is even put in this position whatsoever, and it makes it especially difficult, like you said, because he plays the position of quarterback. There's only one guy that can play. This is a dude that can go start somewhere, and with the transfer portal closing and it not being opening and all the way till April 30th, this kid's basically risking an opportunity to learn the offense during spring ball, which is absolutely huge and incremental in order to be able to become a starter. To think you're going to come in after spring ball and literally just win the starting quarterback job just off of training camp is super, super difficult to accomplish unless you're just world's talent above whoever they have there at that school. So, and this is something that is a huge problem in college football that they're going to have to fix, because now you're talking about situations where football teams are going to be going to these playoffs, and the depth and the teams literally that they were during the season is not going to be the same team that they have during the playoffs. And what are we all basing everything off of, right? We're basing everything off of how we rank these teams off of who they are in the regular season. And then we're putting these teams in a situation where these teams could possibly not be the same teams in the playoffs. That's just not right. No matter what, it's not right. So it's got to be changed. That's got to be addressed ASAP. This offseason.
Yeah, I think if any Penn State has any ill will towards Beau, you're just a hater. This dude has done everything the right way. He's waited his turn. I'm sure like you, Jace, when I was being recruited, when I wanted to play early, I wanted to play. As you know, everyone there, everyone playing at Penn State was the man at some point in their career, and they have the confidence that they should be out there playing. And to wait 3 years, I don't know if I would be able to wait 2 years. And that was back before they had the transfer portal. I would have been ready to be out. So, man, I give that kid so much credit for. The statement that he put out was just so well written, and he's just wherever he goes, man, I'll be supporting Ryan for that guy because he deserves a chance to start. He deserves a chance to show what he can do. And I just think, everyone's mentioning Will Levis, but that's, what Will did, man. He went down to Kentucky, balled out, and look where he's at right now. So, good for those guys, man. It just, like you said, it sucks to be in a position that NCAA's put these guys in, but hopefully that rule changes in the upcoming years.
Yeah.
And credit, by the way, to James Franklin. I thought he handled it really well as well.
Yeah, I agree.
Gave Pribula his props, told him, basically said, if this weren't the way that it was, Beau would be on the sideline with us on Saturday. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of us feel that way. I think most of it, the unfortunate part is, much like any kind of negativity in sports, I feel like the majority of us look at this and go, good for him. Good for him to go get his and do what's best for him and his family. And the vocal minority are the ones that scream and holler, and they're the ones. God, I deal with it as an Eagles fan every single day, so I know what it's like on that kind of basis. So we're gonna get into the college football playoff and talk about the SMU game in just a second. We'll do all that. We'll talk about the Heisman Trophy winner or ceremony this past weekend. Travis Hunter wins the Heisman for Colorado. But before we do anything else, and before we even hit our ads, I did want to give a shout out before I forgot. I wanted to shout out Charles Huff, who is now
Charles Huff.
Yes.
My guy.
Because I know, Jason, I know you got a good relationship with him. Adam, I'm sorry, I don't know if you have a relationship with Charles or not. But I wanted to say this. I thought Charles Huff got a really bad deal at Marshall. You take your team to the conference championship, you win the conference championship, and then your team says, nah, we're just letting your contract run out. What?
Dude, they hadn't won it in 14 years. There's something crazy like that, 14, 15 years. They never won a championship. This dude comes in, completely changes your culture, brings your football team back to its greatness. It's freaking Randy freaking Moss days?
Yeah.
Are you kidding me? And you guys go and win a championship and then you don't pay him? That's not good business. That's not good business. Now, what that tells me is it tells me that your program is satisfied with your football program being below average. That's literally what it says. Because we don't care who you are. We don't care what you do for us. It's nice to have a football team, but having a great one isn't necessarily in our best interest. That's what you're telling not only the university and its students, but you're telling the players that. And that's what sucks the most. Is that's what you're communicating to the players by having that kind of move. But hey, good for Coach Huff. He's going to Southern Miss. He's going to go do it all over again. That's who he is. That's a guy that I played for. Absolutely loves playing special teams for that dude. A guy who fills room with energy every single time he walks in. That's a leader. So he's the guy that's going to continue to have that type of success just by his work ethic and the type of attitude that he brings every single day. So good for Coach Huff.
That's all I can say is shame on the board of trustees at Marshall, man. It's those are the type of decisions that come back and bite you because you think the grass is greener on the other side. You're going to find out quick.
Well, we'll wrap up the transfer portal conversation by saying you kind of know what kind of coach and what kind of man Charles Huff is when Marshall doesn't have enough guys to compete in the bowl game anymore because so many guys entered the transfer portal after they don't bring him back.
It's crazy.
I've never spoken to him. I know, like you said, you guys have relationships with him. I've heard nothing but how he's a great man, a great coach, a great leader. And I know Southern Miss had some struggles the last couple of seasons, but I would not be shocked if he is quickly on the upswing with that team and having them back in some kind of competition. So I had to drop that in there before we went any further because I know there's a lot of adoration for Charles Huff as a coach and as a guy on this program. So we'll talk more about the SMU game in just a second. We'll talk about the Heisman Trophy and the rest of the college football playoff. But first, let me tell you about some of our friends here at PHLY. And, of course, that's our friends over at Shady Rays. You only have 8 days until Christmas. The holiday season is here. And if you're looking to get a last-minute deal a last-minute gift for somebody in your family, a pair of Shady Rays is always a great investment because 300,000 people have rated this world-class product 5 stars, and there's a reason why. Durable frames. And the best part for me, like I need a good frame, right? It's got to fit nicely around your ears. It's got to look good on your face. But the best part for me is the crystal clear optics. It's good for any weather condition. Rain, snow, sleet, sunshine, no sunshine, doesn't matter. Like I wear my sunglasses all the time, and the optics are incredible with every single weather condition. And the good news is they have hundreds of different options to choose from. So you are bound to find the perfect pair that matches your style. Whether you're looking for a little bit more sleek, a little more traditional, you want the aviator, it doesn't matter. Shady Rays has you covered, and you'll be able to kind of find the style and maybe even a pair within your team colors. They have blue and white. I've looked for them. There's Penn State Shady Rays colors. So if you're looking for a great product with, on top of that, incredible customer service and a back that says if your shades ever go missing or take an unexpected hit, you don't have to worry about it. They have the best protection in all of eyewear. You'll get it back of your lost or broken replacement no matter what. And if you buy your pair online and you don't love them, you can exchange them for a new pair or return them worry-free within 30 days. And exclusively to our listeners, as I said, you got 8 days till Christmas. Shady Rays is giving out the best deal of the season. Head on over to shadyrays.com and use code PHLY for 35% off your pair of polarized sunglasses. And of course, let me tell you about our friends over at Ace Hardware Home Services. You know the jingle. You know that Ace is the place with the helpful hardware, folks. But did you also know that Ace is also the place with the helpful hardware home service, folks? Yeah, if you got a leaky pipe, your air conditioning is a problem. Maybe you've got a faucet that's been missing in action for months now, like mine is. Still trying to get it fixed. Don't know what's going on in our bathroom. It just leaks everywhere. If you got a plumbing issue, heating, cooling, air conditioning, they've got the trusted pros to keep your home humming all year long. They bring helpful home, and the helpful that you love from the store is now right at your front door. So visit Ace Hardware Home Services online at www.aceHardwareHomeservices.com to get started on your next project today. Welcome back to the All Nittany Lion Podcast here on PHLY. Tyler Zulli, Adam Telefaro, Jason Kabinda. And guys, it is time. Yes, we are excited. A playoff game at Beaver Stadium as the Nittany Lions host the SMU Mustangs, the runner-up in the ACC. This is an 11-2 Mustangs team that comes into this one having broken a 9-game winning streak when they lose to Clemson in the ACC title game, 34-31. And guys, I don't think we have to look too far to figure out why SMU has been a good team all year. This is an electric offense. And it starts with Kevin Jennings, the quarterback, who to me, guys, still somehow feels like one of the most slept-on quarterbacks across college football.
Yeah, this dude's for real.
A team that scored 30-plus points in 9 of their 11 games this year. Jennings, 3,000 yards, 22 touchdowns, 8 interceptions, and the offensive line has been great. Jennings has only been sacked 11 times this entire season. We talked last week about how this is a pathway for Penn State to have success, to play SMU, to play Boise State. It's 2 teams that I think we believe that Penn State is better than both of these teams. But you can't sleep on this SMU team. They put up points, and they put up points in a hurry. They are an electric offense. They're balanced. The passing attack is strong. The rushing game is strong. This is a good SMU team.
Yeah, man, I'm in your boat with sleeping on them. Man, over the last week, as I started looking a little bit closer at SMU, I'm like, man, these dudes they got a little something to them. And we all know the ACC is not known for their defensive prowess, but to your point, Tyler, they've been putting up some points. Our guy Manny Diaz down at Duke though almost got him. They won in overtime against Duke, but man, I'm just telling you, I feel good about our guys. But when I was talking all that trash last week, thinking our boys just gonna roll like 7.5 points, I'm betting on that. Now I'm like, man, I may hold off a little bit and see how it goes. But I still think it's going to be a challenging matchup for SMU. But I think our guys are going to have to work for it. They're not just going to come in, put on that blue and white, and walk out with a win on Saturday.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a great matchup. And you talked about it. I mean, the storyline of the game is going to be this SMU offense versus our Penn State defense. Like, that's going to be the storyline of the game. That's going to be what decides how this game plays out at the end of the day. 2 blue blood college football programs, SMU making its climb back to the back to relevance in college football, which they haven't been in so long. So, this team's playing with a chip on their shoulder. A lot of people talking about, these teams coming from down south, they're coming to play up north. Can they play in the cold and wooty woot? Like, if I'm Penn State, I ain't hearing none of that. Like, may it end up being a beneficial factor? Cool. If it ends up being that, cool. But you prepare and you make sure that throughout the week that this team is going to come into your house and try to punch you right in the mouth. That's got to be the mindset, period, on the story. Like, this team's going to come in here and they're going to be ready to play. They're coming off a loss, but so are we. So, we got to be hungry. We got to come out with a chip. We got to come out and play. Can't do the first quarter coming out slow BS. Like, nah, this time of the year, that's where that stuff gets cleaned up. That's where that stuff hurts you, because every single team is good enough to capitalize on those types of mistakes.
Yeah, James, I was listening to some of the SMU coaches press conference, and he was like, everyone's talking about this weather. This is the first time Penn State's playing in this weather in December too. So, hey, they got to play. I mean, I didn't even think about it. I'm like, yeah, you know what? Dude got a point. And I don't know, under Franklin, but like when I was at Penn State, we didn't, like in the winter, we didn't practice too much outside. I mean, we played, but coach, we were in Haluba chilling. So it wasn't like we was out there in the elements, getting ready for the cold. So I think that weather thing, to both of you guys' point, it may be a little overblown, because it's going to be new for both of our guys.
Yeah, but I mean, that's football weather, man. That's grown man football. You know how that goes, man. Those pads smacking in that cold, the jammed fingers, the contusions, the joints hurting, the forever to warm up, staying on the sideline and doing everything you can to stay warm while the offense is out there doing their thing. The elements are going to play a factor, man. How Drew throws the ball, how well these running backs can hold on to the ball when their hands are all cold. It's all that stuff all plays into as factors in this game.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the running back for a second. We'll talk about Kevin Jennings a little bit more in detail, but Brashard Smith's an interesting story. Went to Miami as a wide receiver, transfers to SMU, changes positions, and just has an electrifying season. 1,200 plus yards, 14 touchdowns. He's averaging almost 6 yards a carry. Just watching the game film on him, and I've watched a lot of SMU games this year. It's just one of those teams that happens to be on, and I kind of get glued to SMU. His lateral ability, guys, he has like big play capability, make you miss in space skill set. And then, of course, on top of it, like, he was a former wide receiver, so he has pass catcher excellence out of the backfield. This is a team that utilizes a lot of different receivers. They have 7 different pass catchers who have at least 20 yards. They have 7 different pass catchers, 20 receptions, at least 7 different pass catchers who have at least 300 yards. They spread the ball out. They're willing to go quick tempo. They move with big playability. And, I think that this running game has been really, really good. And Smith is kind of one of those guys who, you think about like a Bucky Irving last year, who kind of flew under the radar a little bit and then picked it up towards the end of college football. His stock went through the roof when he tested, and he was drafted at a decent level. And now you see him, he's kind of in a timeshare a little bit with Rachaad White. But before the injuries kind of mounted up a little bit for Irving, he was looking like he was going to take over as the lead back in Tampa Bay in his rookie season. Yeah. Smith kind of gives me those vibes where it's like, this kid's going to get on an NFL field. He's going to impress, and he's going to impress really, really quickly for an NFL team.
Yeah, he's an interesting player, man. He's dynamic for sure. He has moves like a DeAndre Swift type where he can just make you miss. The first guy that gets to the ball isn't going to tackle him. He's definitely a guy, we're going to have to contain. Penn State's going to have a real comprehensive game plan for Abdul. I have seen some of the past tape of this offensive line. I don't think their tackles are their strongest point. I really don't. I think they're stronger on the interior. So I think Penn State's going to have a really good game plan where they can use Abdul and find ways to get the best matchups on him throughout that O-line, whether it's him as a rover linebacker, whether it's him on the left or lined up on the right. So I'm interested to see the way they try to game play for Abdul and how Abdul has effect on that offense.
Yeah, no, I mean, Smith is a problem. Looking at the ranked teams that SMU played, whether it was, Pitt, I think, Pitt was ranked number 18, and he ran for 160 on them. Even the Clemson game last week, he went for 113, and then he even led the team in receiving in 2 games. So I just, to both of your guys' point, it's a again, the more you watch these guys, the more, and I think all Penn State fans, you know, a lot of Penn State fans don't know a lot about SMU, but when you start digging in, looking at the numbers, watching these games, you're like, man, these dudes they're here for a reason. They didn't they're legit. So I couldn't agree with you guys more.
So interesting point you bring up, Jason, with Abdul Carter, and we've seen him all over the field most of the year anyway. He lines up on both sides. He'll line up in that, kind of play a little bit of inside interior defensive line, drop back in coverage. Is this one of those games where you guys could anticipate seeing him line up 4, 5, 6 different spots to kind of, disguise some stuff, confuse the offense, and then, as you brought up, Jason, with the tackle position, kind of take advantage of maybe their interior being stronger than their outside tackles?
Yeah, I mean, I think this could be one of those games where if Abdul comes out hot in the first quarter and he's just beating that left, then you got to switch the game plan. You got to put the game plan away and let the kid go to work. We're going to leave you over there because they don't have the answer for you. I think it can be that type of game for him. I mean, truly, I've seen some of the tapes on these tackles, and they don't do well against the speed rush in general. I mean, Abdul's strength is the speed rush. So I really do think that's going to be something to keep an eye on during this game, like for sure, like without a doubt.
And I bet, you look at see Abdul on social media, he got snubbed for some of these awards, some of these national awards. So he's like, hey, I got to show you still don't believe. Like, I feel like he's going to be a man on a mission throughout the entirety of these playoffs, showing like, hey, I'm that guy. I'm him. So I just can't wait to see how he comes out. I think he's going to come out blazing because you can just see how he's on social media. He's like, man, I still got a lot to prove to a lot of people. So
you gotta love seeing that out of one of your star players, man. Like, obviously, I'm sure Abdul has all the motivation in the world because he wants to go win a national championship, with his teammates. But when you see one of your leaders really have some real personal motivation, man. I mean, in football, we talk about our why all the time. Like, what is your why? Why do you play? Because there's so many moments in football. There's so many experiences in football that are just really super tough. Or if you don't have something really solid, really stable that you can always hold on to as to your why, as to why you're sacrificing the way you are, as to why you're working the way you're working, it can be really, really tough to get through a season, to get through those moments. And, when you see a leader like Abdul, somebody who's your guy, wears the sticks, wears the legendary number 11, and he's feeling snubbed and he's putting it out there for everybody to hear, like, all right, you know what? Y'all still don't believe me? Watch this, like that's what you want to see. So I love that. And I think that's competitiveness. I think the NFL loves to see that. And I think, anybody as a competitor, man, you want to go up against the best. You want to gauge how great you are. And I think, that's where Abdul is at right now. He's trying to push his level of greatness and really assert himself in the national conversation as the best defender coming out into the draft this year.
Yeah. And I mean, you look at what happened 2 weeks ago in the Big Ten championship game. This defense has played great all season. And that wasn't their best game last week. So I think, not only Abdul, but this entire defense is going to be like, hey, that, last week or 2 weeks ago, we took our licks, but we're going to show y'all what we're really about. So I'm just so excited to see what this defense comes out and looks like on Saturday.
Yeah, I think it's actually a good comp when you think about Oregon, right? And I'm not trying to say SMU and Oregon are the same offense. Oregon, for all intents and purposes, statistically at least, is one of the best offenses in college football, like across the board, right? But it's a fair comp, right? Because they take their shots, right? Jennings has a high completion percentage. And then they run the ball well and they protect the football, right? As we talked about, only eight interceptions. But I will say this, he protects the football, I should say. They have 21 turnovers this year. They've created 21 turnovers this year. They are net zero in terms of turnovers. So that to me might be the separator because it's a good run game, good spread out offense, works the ball down the field, explosive when they need to be. Oregon didn't turn the ball over. Dylan Gabriel never throws interceptions, and the running game protected the football. SMU, meanwhile, has those 21 turnovers this year. If there's a place to get them, and Jason, I know you used this word a couple of weeks ago when talking about the Minnesota defense, you got to be opportunistic, right? You got to pounce on opportunities. You force a fumble, you got to scoop it up. You force a third and 15, you can play your pass coverage defense. You ball hawk, the ball, a rare interception from Jennings. This is a good SMU team. You played probably the best offense in college football, or one of the best offenses in college football a couple weeks ago. I wonder, is anything feel easier, after you play Oregon?
I mean, it's got to be. I mean, the Oregon set the standard, man. They set the bar, and but I think it was. I mean, as much as we talk about the Big Ten championship and we wanted things to turn out differently, I think it was it's a good barometer of what you're going to see in the playoffs. I mean, you're going to see dynamic offenses. You're going to see teams that can do a bunch of different things, a bunch of talented, skilled position players, and Oregon had all of that, and SMU, not to the same level as Oregon, but SMU has that. But I think our guys now are somewhat battle tested. You got a little peek of what the test is going to look like by playing Oregon, and now our guys should be ready to go. And I think even Tom Allen, our defensive coordinator, from what I'm hearing, he's got some different wrinkles, because even for him, I think it was a learning playing up against a dynamic offense like that. So I think it was somewhat of a blessing in disguise playing a team like Oregon in the Big Ten championship, because it has hopefully prepared our guys to play against this offense that we're going to see in SMU.
I think at this point in time, a lot of the results of these games come down to preparation, because it's so easy by week 13 to week 14 to start to get lazy in meetings. Now, you're not writing as many notes. You're not being as detailed because I've been there before. We've done this. We've gone over this. But, man, to truly be able to, and this is a skill in itself, but to truly be able to separate each week and hit a full reset and be at zero at the beginning of the week and build up your preparation back from zero week in and week out, because now every single team that you're facing can be new teams. They can be teams that your team normally doesn't face, whether it's in the regular season, the playoffs, or out of conference, or whatever the case may be. So there's a lot of unfamiliarity with a lot of these teams that you may be facing down this stretch. So the preparation has to be really, really on point. And that's just a focus deal. That's focus. That's leadership of the players and making sure that everything is up to standard this late in the year when everybody's outside at practice and shit's getting real cold and we're taking maybe less rest because coach is trying to save our bodies because it's the end of the season and he wants to make sure we're nice and fresh for game day. Well, guess what? Those few reps that coach cut at the end of practice or cut off of those few periods of practice because he's trying to save on your body, those are reps you still got to go get. And that's where the maturity comes in of a team, and the leadership of each room is making sure those guys are getting in there and getting the film and getting the mental rep of the reps that didn't happen physically on the practice field because coach is trying to save your legs. So those are the places where you find differences in preparation and where gaps can be closed or widened in terms of going into a game.
So let me give you guys a couple of numbers real quickly before we talk about the other kind of topics of conversation we have. Let me know if anything jumps out to you when I give you these stats. Some are good. Most are good for SMU. Some are not. This is a team that averages 13.5 yards per completion and 8.7 yards per attempt. They're 26th in college football in passing yards per game. They are 18th in third down conversions offensively. They're also 18th in third down conversions. They have the fourth best run defense in college football. They give up just 93 yards per game. They also are tied for 11th in college football in sacks with 40. That's the good. The bad, 91st in passing yards allowed. They give up almost 233 yards per game. They are 130th in penalties taken this season, 107 total penalties, 5 off the most in college football. We talked about that net zero turnover differential. And then maybe this is good, maybe this is not, how you feel about quick strike offense versus sustainability. They are 103rd in time of possession this season across college football. Anything for you guys? I know it was a lot of numbers thrown out there. It just sounds like me nerding out like I like to do. Anything stand out to you guys on either the positive or the negative looking at this SMU team?
I mean, it's clear that, I think the biggest thing that pops out when you name those numbers is the third down conversion rate and the fact that their offense is doing a really good job of staying ahead of schedule. I think 60 or so % of their third downs have been 3rd and 5 or less. Like as an offense, that's where you want to be. That's the world you want to live in. Now, what the actual conversion rate ends up being after you're in those situations is what it is. But at least as an offense, being in those type of situations is what you're trying to accomplish on a consistent basis. And their offense is doing that right now. The penalty thing, like that's going to be huge. Well, we talk about all the time about the turnover battle, the penalty battle. Like being that far behind in the penalty battle, that's got to be something that Penn State has to take advantage of. And it's got to be something that's emphasized in meetings during practice. Like it might be one of those things you tell your players, like, hey, man, like you might see it on film, like, oh, this guy gets really easily agitated. Like, try to get in his head. Let's get one out of this guy, like everybody knows, bro. I mean, Adam, there are players that during the week on film, you just know, like, this guy's got an attitude, or this guy's, he's got a screw loose. He can't keep his head. He's not composed. And you try to fuck with him. I mean, you do. Those are the types of tactics that are used as players to try to gain an advantage. So I think it's definitely going to be something that's going to be on Penn State's radar and something to be circled for sure.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And even, the SMU coaches talking about, just dealing with the crowd noise. Yeah, I think it's already on top of his mind about penalties because, he said with Abdul out there on the edge, I'm worried about my tackle getting, not jumping off sides, dealing with having to stop Abdul, and he's, trying to hear the cadence during the game. So I think that's definitely, if you get a, 1st and 15, second and 12, getting those off schedule type plays only works to Penn State's advantage. But, even looking at, SMU's got a great run defense from, statistically, getting our guys, Katron and Nick, they both had great games in Oregon. And from what we hear, this is the healthiest they've been, which is kind of ironic to hear near the end of the season. Those guys, they were, banged up throughout the season, but Franklin said this is the healthiest they've been throughout the year. So hopefully getting those guys rolling early on, breaking that will. We've talked about it numerous times throughout this year about the mental side of it. And if we can go out and exert our will and let SMU not believe that they can play with Penn State early on, I think that only goes into our favor.
Yeah, 6 penalties last week against Clemson for 65 yards. Now, I was trying to go back and look at the box score, the play-by-play log, to see exactly what they are. But, those numbers tell you that it's 6 penalties for 65 yards. You're averaging over 10 yards a penalty. That seems to me more times than not, it's not your 5-yard offsides. It's not your 5-yard penalties. It's more, it's holdings. It's
technique.
Right.
Technique and fundamentals.
You guys talk about that all the time, right? Like the difference between the fundamental penalties and you grab the face mask in the heat of battle penalties, right? So how do you balance how if you're Penn State, how do you attack that? I think can you go right after it? Like, Jason, you brought it up. Do you go right after the guy who's got 14 holding penalties on that's not a real play. I made that number up. But like, if there is that dude who's got 14 holding penalties on the year, you probably say, hey, Abdul, get after it, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, if you're a D-line coach, that's one of the first things that D-line coaches assess throughout years. How many holding penalties do you have? How many false starts? How disciplined is this guy? Where are his hands? Like, that's one of the biggest things that a D-line coach looks at when they're trying to coach their D-line going into a game. So, I don't know the numbers on the holding penalties or whatever it is, but like, if there's a guy like that, that's a guy you absolutely want Abdul on all day long. Because if an offensive line has a ton of holding penalties, at the end of the day, what that's telling you is either 1, he has poor technique, or 2, he has poor feet and he can't stay in front of a guy. So what you want to do off rip, if you know that you have that type of problem child on the O-line, is I'm going to put the hardest matchup in front of him. We're going to draw penalties all day because this guy can't stay in front of Abdul. So, those are the kind of things you want to pick out. But it'll be interesting, I think, to see how that plays out. And, whether there's certain tactics or, whether Penn State uses a ton of hard count, things of that nature to try to draw those penalties. We'll see.
And I just want to check, we do have a different officiating crew, so those penalties can actually be called this week as opposed to the championship game. So I'm hoping that's the case.
I see the comment from Eric Holmes there. It was, it's funny because I as a Penn State and Eagles fan, I texted a buddy the other day and I said, which Carter gets held more, Abdul or Jason? Because they get held nonstop. It's crazy. And I guess good players tend to get held a lot more because of the skill set, right? And you got to try to keep up with them. So guys, I'll ask you again. We don't really do a lot of predictions, but I'll ask you guys. I'll just lay it out there. This is a good SMU team. I believe Penn State is better on both sides of the ball. I think Penn State will win this game, and I feel confident that as long as they don't hurt themselves, if there's not a lot of shoot yourself in the foot type of penalties, if there's not a lot of mistakes and early turnovers. And Jason, as you brought up, slow starts. I do feel pretty good about Penn State winning this game on Saturday.
Yeah, I definitely think they're going to win. I think it's going to be one of those games where Penn State is up like between 10 to 17 points the majority of the game. And then at the end, SMU tries to make a run and, maybe gets close and brings it within one score, but ultimately doesn't win, like 31-24 type of game, Penn State.
Yeah, I'm gonna go 31. But let's go 28-17. And my childhood friend, my girl Toya Wilson, we grew up together, went to high school together. She's the head women's basketball coach at SMU. She's been talking trash all week about how her boys are gonna do work this week, and I just girl, because we already got a bet going. So for my girl Toya, Penn State, we are going to win this weekend, and I'm just so excited. It's finally here. Like Jason said, we've been talking about this for so long, just for it to finally be here. It's like Christmas Day, man.
And to be at home, what an opportunity.
Yeah.
What an opportunity.
Well, it's one of the things that was brought up, I think, was asked of a lot of Penn Staters, and they kind of had a similar answer. We're not viewing this as a challenge, or we're not viewing this as pressure. We're viewing this as an opportunity. So I look forward to it. I know you guys are as well. I think this will be a great game. It's a good SMU team. I think it is a better Penn State team. You play clean. You play a clean game. You limit the turnovers. You limit the explosive plays. SMU is quite good at explosive plays. You limit them as best you can. I do feel good about this. All right, let's talk about the college football playoff. The rest of it, we'll talk about the Heisman winner as well in just a second, but we do have a little bit of business to take care of. So let's pay some bills here on PHLY, and let me tell you about our friends over at Empire. We've been telling you about Empire for a while on this show now. Customer service is all that they do. Well, it's not all they do. They do flooring and installation, of course, but customer service is why they do it. Listen, you might get inundated with the big box stores. You go in, there's a million different options, and you feel overwhelmed. Empire doesn't want you to feel like you're overwhelmed and you have this ridiculous uphill climb to battle to put new flooring into your house. They want to simplify the concept for you, whether you are shopping at home or shopping online. And it is the best place to get new flooring because, listen, there's always going to be copycats, but they can't beat Empire today on their quality, their service, their speed. So these other places, they might advertise the lowest prices or the lowest or lower quality product that Empire just won't carry. They're not worried about getting you in and out the door as quickly as possible. They want to make sure that they take the time to work with you and get the floors that you want to make your house, your space, your living room, whatever it might be, as up-to-date and as incredible as you can actually hope it to be. And one of the best things about shopping with Empire today, especially if you do it online, is their virtual floor design. It is a great way to see how their new floors or your new floors will look in any space. It's so easy. All you have to do is take a picture of your room, your living room, your dining room, your kitchen, your bathroom, whatever it might be. Snap a picture, upload it to the virtual floor design, and you can see how your floors will look with every different model and every different design that you're hoping to put in. And Empire prides themselves on their convenient shop-at-home experience. They're going to help you shop for floors just the way that you would within a store. They'll help you do it online. They're going to give you the opportunity to see what your home looks like with lighting and decor on top of the virtual floor designer. And they service their own warranties. So if there's any issues, and there probably won't be, but if there are, just call Empire, and they will service all of their warranties themselves. So schedule a free in-home estimate today, and all listeners can receive a $350 off discount when they use the promo code PHLY. Restrictions do apply. See empiretoday.com/PHLY for more details. And if you're looking to get in with some of the great writing and some of the great content here at PHLY, it's never been a better time to become a diehard because you can do it for as little as $4 a month. You'll get all the premium written content from all of our incredible writers, including Charlie O'Connor, Kyle Neubeck, Derek Bodner, Zach Berman, Les Bowen, Bo Wolf, and Jim Salisbury with the Phillies, of course, as well. You'll also get access to some of our great events, and if it's a paid event, you will get 20% off of the paid event. Coming up, a couple of really great events are happening with us here at PHLY, including a Flyers Suite Takeover on January 11th when the Flyers take on the Ducks. You'll get what the price of admission will get you is your suite ticket, your food and beverage, and of course, an opportunity to hang out with the PHLY Flyers crew and some of the best Flyers fans around. Because if you're in the Discord, the Flyers Discord, you know it doesn't stop. It never stops because Flyers fans are incredible, and all they want to do is talk about their hockey team, which is playing some pretty good hockey right now. They have a a pretty young stud who's pretty darn good in Matvei Michkov. He's going to be there for hopefully a very, very long time. So if you want to get in on the Discord, we call it the PHLY Lounge. You do that by accessing our diehard our diehard services. And again, you can get it for as little as $4 a month. So head on over to allphly.com, look up the diehard tab, and you can get started today. And by the way, when you do become a diehard, you will get access to free merch, a free t-shirt when you sign up. So take advantage of that right now at allphly.com. Welcome back to the All Nittany Lion Podcast here on PHLY. Tyler Zulli, Adam Telefaro, Jason Kabinda. And guys, the Heisman Trophy was awarded this past weekend. It goes to Travis Hunter, the athlete, the two-sided guy who plays both sides of the ball, cornerback, wide receiver, double-digit touchdowns, some really good cornerback numbers. He wins the Heisman Trophy over Ashton Jeanty of Boise State, the running back who was putting up some incredible numbers himself. I have kind of been an advocate for Ashton Jeanty this year. The numbers that he has put up were sensational. We've talked about him a lot on this podcast. 100 plus rushing yards just about every game, an average of like 165 or 170 per game, 180, 190, 200 was never outside the realm of possibility. I was a big Ashton Jeanty advocate to win the Heisman Trophy. But Travis Hunter does win it. I wanted to get your guys' thoughts on Hunter winning. Jeanty finishes in second. Dylan Gabriel and Cam Ward finish third and fourth. Wanted to get your guys' thoughts on Travis Hunter winning the Heisman.
I mean, these guys are great players, like, period, end of story. I think the part about the discourse that I hate about this, like, you can like one player over the other, whatever the case may be, but to tear the other down in order to make your point is the part where it's just like, stop. Like, for me, the thing that pisses me off the most about the Travis Hunter discourse is that we have minimized this kid's greatness down to talking about his snap count. That is a part about it that absolutely blows me. This is a guy who won the Heisman, a guy who you can say is the best DB in the country. He didn't win the Jim Thorpe. Don't know why. I feel like nowadays all these awards are all about making sure enough good players get recognized. But like, to me, that's not really what it's about. That's the media way of doing it. Let's just do it how it is. Whoever's the best at this is whoever's the best. You can't have a guy who's the best football player overall, but he's not the best at his position. That doesn't make sense. I mean, Travis easily could have won the Hornung Award, Heisman, and Thorpe, and maybe been second or third place in the Biletnikoff, you know? So that's the part that I hate. Like, this dude's top 5 in both positions, no matter the way you see it. And to minimize his greatness down to, oh, he just plays a lot of snaps, and that's why you guys love him is the part that I hate about it. So either way, no matter which guy won, both of them were both very, very deserving regardless.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And it was they both had fantastic seasons, and I'll be interested to see. I be the first one to say I didn't see a lot of Boise State games this year, but the numbers speak for themselves. But I think just like Abdul, with his motivation, it'll be interesting to see what Ashton does in the playoffs. Hopefully, it's not too crazy. If Penn State is fortunate enough to win, we'll get to play against a strong Penn State defense, and we'll see what he does out there. But if I had a vote, I'd be voting for Travis. I mean, just what he did this year was amazing, and it was just great to see this collection of talent, get recognized at the end of the day. So,
Jason, you bring up, the spread out of the awards, and I actually have felt that way too. And it's one of those things where, like, I even take it to the NFL, where if a quarterback wins the MVP, and it has unfortunately kind of become a quarterback award more times than not, but if a quarterback wins the MVP, sometimes it feels like a different player wins the offensive player of the year, maybe at a different position, maybe a different quarterback or whatever the case may be. But I wanted to bring this one up too, because when you said the spread out of the awards, I immediately thought of one guy. How about this? 1997, Jack Tatum, Jim Thorpe, Chuck Bednarik, Bronco Nagurski, Walter Camp, and Heisman Trophy winner Charles Woodson.
Ooh.
I mean, bro, if that's what it was, then that's what it was. I don't understand. Like, I don't like that we don't feel like just because we don't give a guy an award, we're not giving them their flowers, Yeah. I'm not a fan of that. And I'm super a fan of having a quarterback award, period, end of story, than having the Heisman. Like, straight up. Because there's just too much pressure that, the quarterbacks are who has to win it. I think it's just really corny to me. It just is. Not a fan.
right, guys. So let's talk about the rest of the college football playoff for just a second. We'll go a little rapid fire, if you will, as we wrap up today's show. Let's take a look at the rest of the bracket. The other 5 games or 4 games, excuse me. 3 games that are going to play this weekend. Rapid fire. I'll go back and forth with you guys. We'll start with the 8-9 matchup, Ohio State and Tennessee. This to me feels like maybe the best of the 4 matchups, the closest of the 4 matchups. Anything stand out to you guys in this one?
I don't know what it is. The same feeling I had with Michigan. Like I feel like Ohio State emotionally, I don't know if they bounced back from that L they took against Michigan. I'm sounding crazy, but I think Tennessee's gonna get them. I don't know why. But I just feel like
I actually agree with that. I think Tennessee's gonna get him. I love that quarterback a lot. He's had his up and downs this year, but he's got a ton of talent.
Yeah.
Texas Clemson in this one, the 5-12 matchup. Texas was the 3 seed in the rankings. They're the 5 seed in the college football playoff. Clemson was the 16 team, but they win the ACC. It was a team that we really weren't talking about too much in the ACC. It was mostly Miami at the beginning. Then it was SMU, and then Clemson comes in and swoops in and wins the ACC and gets in. This one, to me, feels like this has the potential to maybe be the biggest blowout of the 4 games. I think Texas could come into this one and roll Clemson.
Yeah, I think so too. I definitely don't think Clemson has enough to beat them. Quinn Ewers has had a couple of games that are, a little bit iffy or a little question marky, but I feel good about the fact that they feel great about Archie Manning, and Archie's had to come in and play meaningful football and meaningful snaps for this team, and has come up and showed up big in those games. So if it comes down to that, and Quinn has a really slow start, throws 2 picks in the first, second quarter, I could see Archie going out there, finishing this game, winning the game for them, and remaining the starter for the rest of the playoffs.
I agree with you.
Interesting storyline.
I completely agree with you both. I think this one, out of all of them, has a chance to be a blow. I don't know what the spread is on the game. I should have looked, but I think Texas gets them.
And then the last one that's not Penn State and SMU is the battle for Indiana. Notre Dame and Indiana in this one. This is an interesting one because we've talked about Indiana a lot. Probably, other than Ohio State, the one team that we've discussed the most on this show that isn't Penn State. They're the 10 after their 1 loss to Ohio State. Notre Dame is the 7. This is 2 teams where the discourse surrounding these 2 teams was strength of schedule, strength of schedule, strength of schedule, right? Notre Dame beats Army. They beat Navy. They beat USC. Their loss, though, comes to Northern Illinois. Indiana was beating up on the teams that they've played in front of them all year. They were running up scores on teams, and the best team that they played was Ohio State, who they lost to. I'll be honest, I don't have a really good read on this one. I think either one of these teams could win this game.
I was about to say the same thing. I don't know which teams are going to show up to this game. That's the reality. When I look at these teams play, Notre Dame, have they done enough? Have they played enough to show me that they're elite or not? I don't think so. Indiana, when it comes to, the Ohio State game, if it's 31-28, I'd feel a whole lot better about being like, I think Indiana's going to have enough to beat Notre Dame, but they go out there and get spanked 31-7, which I think is really important context. So it's hard to call that one. No idea. Complete toss-up for me.
For me, it's just an emotional pick, man. I want Indiana to win because Notre Dame fans, man. I got so many. We all know these.
Not Adam being a hater.
All these Notre Dame fans that are talking like the Rockets still there or Jerome Bettis, like they were still. I just want Indiana just to knock them out. Just in-state rival, just knock them out. Shut all the Notre Dame fans up and let's keep it moving.
All right, guys. Well, we got 4 really great games this weekend. Super excited. Penn State and SMU kickoff from Happy Valley at noon. Jason, you'll be down there, I presume, doing the pregame show?
We will not be there. I'll be there. Okay. I'll be doing the postgame show, though.
Okay. Adam, are you making your way up, or you staying home this weekend?
I told you, my daughter's got the Nutcracker, so I'll be watching it. Right. I'll watch it on my phone during the Nutcracker.
Well, best of luck to Penn State. Best of luck to your daughter in her performance this weekend. And, guys, as always, it has been a pleasure to be with you. We'll be back. Well, actually, the 3 of us are going to have to get together and decide what our game plan is going to be for next week, because Tuesday's Christmas Eve, and I don't know about you guys, but I don't want to work at 5 o'clock on Christmas Eve. So,
I'll be in the Bahamas, actually.
So we're definitely not going to do Christmas Eve. So the 3 of us will get together and figure out a time for the show. But if we don't chat before Christmas, a happy holidays to both you and your families. Really enjoy this. This is one of my favorite hours of the week. So I know we'll chat offline, but if we don't get a chance to do our show before Christmas rolls around, a really happy holidays to both you and all of your families.
Yeah, same to you guys, man. Both of you guys have a great holidays. Been a fun
all right, guys,
year.
enjoy the Penn State and SMU game this weekend, noon kickoff from Beaver Stadium. We'll be back at some point next week to chat with you, maybe as we break down the game and hopefully talk about a matchup with the Boise State Broncos. So for Adam Telefaro and Jason Cabinda, I am Tyler Zulli saying thank you so much for tuning into the All Nittany Lion podcast, and all of you out there as well, since we may not get a chance to chat with you. A very happy holidays to you and your families, and stay safe and enjoy the week ahead. We'll talk to you at some point next week right here on PHLY.
We all silly like the mayor.